Hello everyone. In the previous lecture about integrated marketing communication, we discussed about the basics of the integrated marketing communication. We talked about the marketing mix. We also talked about how this marketing mix is related to promotion mix or communication mix. Now we will further discuss about some more concepts, strategies, and the principles of integrated marketing communication. Now we'll talk about communication theory, IMC theory. IMC theory is derived from the communication theory only, and we'll discuss about some more concepts and factor affecting strategies of IMC. We'll also talk about segmentation, targeting, positioning, and principles of effective marketing communication. Now this is the indicative literature that you can refer for this course. Let's talk about some elements in the marketing communication process. So before that, we'll talk about the communication process and relate this process with integrated marketing communication. Now, as you can see, there is a component, there is an element like sender, encoding, message or media, decoding, receiver, then response and feedback. Finally, it is connected to the sender. Now, when we talk about the elements in the communication process, the important elements are like sender and receiver. Then we have elements like encoding and decoding. After this, we have a message which is transferred with the help of media. Along with this, there are some other components also or elements like response, feedback, and noise. Now, sender is the person who is transmitting or relaying the message to a receiver. This is done with the help of the encoding. Encoding is the process of converting the language or the communication in the content format or in the message format using a media. The message is converted into some different format with the help of the some communication tool devices or some media channel, and then further it is decoded so that the message could be easily understood by the receiver. After the receiver receives the message, then the response is taken by the receiver or the action is taken, and a feedback is given to the sender. It is like acknowledgement given to the sender. But during this process, there happens a concept, there exists a concept of noise also. It is a element of destruction which destroys the message. This may happen. The level of the noise factor may be different. It depends upon the uh, gap between the sender and the receiver. Again, it also depends upon the process of encoding or decoding as well as the type of media used for the communication process. Now you can see one more similar image. This image is just similar to the communication theory diagram or the process that we discussed in the previous slide. So you can see important components like sender, message, channel or media, message, then again, and receiver. So after the sender, once the sender utilizes the message and prepares to transmit the message, the encoding happens, the encoding process. And when we talk about receiving and receiver, the receiver further decodes the message. Now, these are the components that we discuss about integrated marketing communication process or the communication theory. We discuss about sender, message, encoding, channel, decoding, receiver, response. Now, let's talk about sender. So, it is the sender is the party that sends the message to the other party or another party. Message is the set of messages the sender sends. Encoding is putting through the message into symbolic form. Channel is the communication channel message is sent through. Decoding is the process by which receivers assign meaning to the sender's transmitted symbols. Receiver is the party receiving the message or the audience or the customer. Response is the set of reactions following exposure or the reception of message. Now, noise is the planned or unplanned static or distortion that happens that exists during the process of transmission or the process of communication. Feedback comes after the or comes along with the noise. Feedback is the part of response transmitted back to the sender by the receiver. So it is a part of response that is transmitted from the receiver to the sender. These are the different elements or the components of communication theory. On the screen, you can see one more graphic which explains the major important elements of the communication process like sender, receiver, medium, the message, and the feedback. Now, in the previous slide, we talked about the elements of integrated marketing communication or the elements of communication theory. But there are some essentials or requirement for the integrated marketing communication. The IMC requirements are like synergy. It requires synergy. There has to be synergy between the sender and the receiver. And better use of communication funds is also required when we talk about integrated marketing communication. The utilization of the communication funds or the budgets. And this also demands balancing the push and pull strategies. It also requires to have a better coordination or the communication between the audience, timing, place, messages. For example, the message has to be communicated to the right customer, right consumer at right place, right time to make the communication process effective. Moving further, some more essentials or the requirements for IMC are like awareness of audience, media habit and preferences. The sender or the communicator must be aware of the media habits and the preferences of the audience, and understanding of audiences knowledge and belief about the product and services is also required. Use of coordinated media blend linked to the specific objective, like we must be clear the type of media that we are using depending upon the type of objective. Now, the key for the effective integrated marketing communication is a single coordinated message and the image thrust. Our focus has to be on the message consistency. Now, let's talk about some more concepts and factors affecting the integrated marketing communication strategies. We will talk about push or pull strategies, push versus pull strategy. We'll talk about segmentation, targeting, positioning. Then further, we'll talk about the principles of effective communication that includes identification of target group, choice of communication channel, establishing marketing communication budgets, decision or marketing communication mix, and result measurements. Now, what else can influence marketing communication mix? So, the factors affecting the marketing communication mix also includes the type of the product, maybe services oriented, or it may be a tangible product, consumer product, or B2B or industrial product. So, depending upon the type of product, depending upon the stage of the product life cycle, different stages of the product life cycle. In the introduction stage, the strategy may be different, IMC strategy may be different. And when we talk about the growth stage, maturity stage, decline stage, so all these stages have different, require different set of integrated marketing communication campaign. Now, the level of consumer readiness to accept the product or services is also important. The purchase capacity or the customer buying customer must be willing to buy the product and services. That also matters a lot. For example, in a country like India, the during the festival season, the buying capacity increases for the consumers. People are already mentally prepared to buy more of product and services, consume more of product services during the festival offers. So the consumer's readiness to accept the product or services is also important. Competitors marketing mix, again marketing communication mix, not marketing mix. Competitors marketing communication mix also important. If we are operating in the related to the similar product or the product is matching with the competitor product, then we also need to look into the marketing communication mix of the competitor, and depending upon the budget we can plan our marketing communication mix. So financial resources are also very important. Now let's talk about the push versus pull strategy. These are the two strategies, or we can call them as the sales strategy also. Now depending upon the type of strategy, we can plan our integrated marketing communication campaign. So when we talk about push strategy is like this directs the communication efforts at channel members. Many products such as business products are promoted with the help of push strategy involving personal selling and use of trade promotion. So when we talk about the push strategy, personal selling is largely employed. Even use of trade promotion is also done. So this is how we focus in the push strategy. And when we talk about the pull strategy, in pull strategy, this directs promotion at the end consumer. Okay. So when we talk about push, the focus is on the channel member, how to create the awareness about the product and service, how to improve, increase the reach. And whereas when you talk about pull strategy, so the entire effort are directed towards the consumer only or the end user. So most consumer products would rely more heavily on the pull strategy, where promotion is directed at the consumer to stimulate demand. Objective is to directly stimulate demand. So when we talk about pull marketing versus push marketing, or pull and push strategy, in case of pull, the strategy is focused. It is like inbound marketing strategy, inbound, whereas push is outbound marketing strategy. In case of pull marketing, users know what they are looking for, targeted engages the customer. This require constant attention and works best when there is already brand loyalty. So if the brand loyalty is already established, then the push strategy is very successful, or it is very effective. When we talk about push marketing, it is outbound marketing strategy. This helps brand get off their feet, good for niche markets. So in case of niche markets, this push strategy is very effective, and this looks at a targeted approach and can be more expensive also, because we need to spend a lot of money in promoting our products and services. Now let's talk more in more detail about the push versus pull strategy. So in case of pull, the producer transmits or the dispatches the goods and services to the end user with the help of different marketing activities, and the intermediaries or market intermediaries creates a demand for the product and services. When we talk about market intermediaries, then they are like trade partners, channel partners, maybe they may be dealer, distributor, retailer. Okay, so they helps in creating the demand for the product and services. Now when we talk about push strategy, we talked about push. So the demand is created by the channel partner, trade partners. And in case of pull strategy, the demand is created by the consumers, by the end user. So they raise their demand to the channel partner, trade partner, and then they further transfer their these demand to the producer. Now on your screen you can see the comparison of pull versus push strategy. Now there are two colored arrow. One arrow is representing the product flow, whereas other arrow is representing the communication flow. So in case of push strategy, the product flow as well as the communication flows from producer to the consumer with the help of channel partners like wholesaler and retailers. Whereas in case of pull strategy, the product flow is done from the producer only, from producer to consumer. But the communication efforts are directly uh, diverted or targeted directly to the consumer without any wholesaler, retailer, or without any channel partner. So as we discussed, this is again a comparison between push and pull. Push is outbound, pull is inbound. This we had already discussed in the previous slide also. Push is very effective in case of niche markets. Now you can see a matrix which discuss about the push versus pull, and there are some criteria like when to use this strategy and some characteristics. So when we talk about push strategy, if we are dealing with technical products or product valued by their features, or for new products, for improved product, even for old product in the new market, then push strategy is very effective. Some characteristics may be like it is a proactive effort to convince customers to purchase a product. It tends to focus on the product's feature in case of push marketing or push strategy. Now let's talk about the pull strategy. If we talk about the characteristics, it is a passive strategy that consists on attracting customers with values or desires. Okay, it tends to focus on aspirational value. We are talking about pull strategy. So pull strategy tends to focus on aspirational values. Now, when to use this pull strategy? For example, for common products, for simple products, in well-known products, even in strong brands, or for mediocre products in saturated market, we can use pull strategy. Now moving ahead about discussing on the factors affecting strategies in integrated marketing communication, we'll talk about STP, popularly known as segmentation, targeting, positioning. Now when we talk about segmentation, So segmentation, a market segment is basically a set of individuals unique in some way or the other, sharing one or more common characteristics, having similar needs, responding to market conditions in the same manner, have similar behavioral patterns, may or may not belong to the same community group or niche. So when we talk about the segmentation, like we need to, while thinking about the integrated marketing communication campaign, IMC campaign, we need to think about the segmentation of the market also. So accordingly, our strategies would be different. Right now, we are talking about the factors affecting IMC theories or the IMC strategies. Now we are discussing on segmentation. The segmentation has to be done properly. This will help us to save our budget also, utilize our budget also properly, and accordingly we can plan the different types of media or the channel to be used for the communication campaign. Accordingly, we may be spending more on advertisement, we may be spending more on the sales promotion also, or maybe on publicity, public relation, or personal selling. So segmentation helps us to identify the market. So next step is, after segmentation, next step is targeting. Segmentation is done on the basis of the characteristics of the market. So on the basis of the characteristics, need, requirement, we have to plan different strategies. After segmentation, the next step is targeting. Targeting is like identifying the right customer group or the consumer group. So it is selecting the target audience, or popularly known as TA, target audience. Target audience for whom our product or services is meant to be, and most likely this is based upon the age group, likes or the dislikes, gender, socio-economic factors, or the geographic location. So there are the different bases of targeting also. So after segmentation, then we need to think about targeting. So after targeting of the audience or the consumer, then we need to think about the positioning. So on the basis of the positioning strategy, the different types of integrated marketing communication campaign activities has to be planned. So positioning is like what we do in the mind of prospects. This refers to the image our target audience has regarding our services product or services as compared to our competitor. Every customers or the consumers have different image. They may be using similar products, but when they compare different competitor, the image they acquire about the product and services are different. So it is all the more essential in today's setup, where literally no sector is devoid of an oligopolistic setup. So primary and in most cases, the only objective in case of positioning is to highlight the product or product's USP in most striking manner. So it is like highlighting our USP of the product or the or USP of our services in comparison to our competitor. So in the previous slide, we are discussing about the role of segmentation, targeting, positioning as a factor affecting integrated marketing communication campaign. Now we'll discuss about principles of effective marketing communication. When we talk about principles of effective marketing communication, we need to talk about several factors like who, where, what, how much, from, channel, or the period of time, and what was it. So these are several factors. Now let's talk about these factors or these components in detail. Now, who means identifying the target audience. So we are talking about the principles of effective marketing communication. While planning about the integrated marketing communication campaign, we need to identify the target audience is the who. Then where. Where means the choice of communication channel, which type of channel to be utilized to communicate our message. There could be different media channels, maybe print media, maybe broadcast, electronic, outdoor, maybe internet also. So the choice of communication channel is also important. And third is what is like the message or the content, what we want to communicate to the audience, to the consumer or the customer. And then how much is the budget. Budget is a monetary component. We need to, while planning about the communication campaign, we need to spend money, because we have to use different types of media channels, different types of tools also. So For that we require budget, and it has to be planned accordingly. It's depending upon the nature of objective, depending upon the type of the product or services. And then after this is the from channel, means communication program design, how we will communicate. So it is about designing the communication program, and then monitoring and evaluation. So once we have rolled out the communication program, or the campaign has been started, it is rolled out, the campaign has to be monitored and the success has to be evaluated. Because as we have been spending a lot of money in the communication campaign, we need to monitor the effectiveness of the or the success of the communication campaign also. Now we'll talk about identifying target audience, which is the first step. So when we talk about identifying target audience, we need to go for the image analysis. Okay, so image means it is about belief, idea, attitude, impressions, and actions regarding an object. So we need, while identifying the target right audience, because for every type of audience the communication campaign may be different, their media preference or the buying habits or the consumption habits may be different. So we need to think about how do they analyze the image of the brand, of the product or the company. And after identifying the target audience, so in the previous slide we talked about identifying target audience. Now we are talking about principles of effective marketing communication. Now second step would be choice of communication channel. Choosing a right communication channel is very important. So a communication channel is a medium or the method used to deliver a message to the intended audience, targeted audience. A variety of communication channel exists. An example includes mass media such as television, radio. Radio also includes community radio. Even and in when we talk about print media, so newspaper could be an example. So mass media includes TV, radio, newspapers. And there is a one more category, media activities. Media activities, also known as traditional or folk media. This includes theater, public talks, announcement through megaphones or community-based surveillance, etc. Even print media such as poster, flyers, leaflets, social and digital media such as mobile phones, applications, and social media, mobile applications and social media. Okay, if we talk about interpersonal communication, IPC tools or techniques such as door-to-door visits, phone lines, telephone discussion group, different channels are appropriate for different audience. Okay, and the choice of channel will depend upon the audience being targeted. So this is most important, the type of the audience that we are targeting, the message being delivered in the context of the emergency. So depending upon the nature of the emergency, if you want to reach out to the audience urgently, quickly, then electronic media or the broadcast media could be very successful. All right, and using a variety of channel or a channel mix is recommended so that messages can be reinforced through multiple sources. So this is the second step, choice of communication channels. Now we will talk about different types of channels. So here we are talking about communication channels. So there are two broad categories, like personal or non-personal. So non-personal is like mass media, that largely covers the mass media. It is about the event surroundings, that includes atmosphere, and mass media includes print, broadcast, network, electronic, and display or outdoor media. Okay, if we talk about personal channels or personal mode, this includes direct and real-time interaction. So real-time interaction or the direct interaction happens in case of personal media channels. Okay, this include advocate or advocacy, expert or social. All right, and in social, then there is a category of new media also, which includes social media channels also, blogging, email, mobile marketing, etc. So the selection of this channel, these channels depends upon the nature of the message, target audience, and the desired outcome. Okay, so while choosing a type of communication, we need to think about the nature of the message, target audience, and desired outcome. Now let's talk about these components, these individual components. So we'll talk about personal channels. So these involves direct, often one-to-one communication, allowing for high interaction, immediate feedback, and emotional ones. Now, examples are like in-person meetings, phone call, video conferences. There are so many conferencing tools like Zoom, Team, Google Talk. These are some important video conferencing tools. Okay, and direct and private emails also. Now, these personal channels are best used for sensitive information, performance reviews, complex negotiation, and relationship building. Key advantage of using these personal channels could be like high media richness. This helps avoiding misunderstanding by conveying tone and the body language also. So this is about personal channel. Now we'll talk about advocate or advocacy channels. The like this is like these are the company driven communication, directly comes from the company or the organization or the sales force or the sales team. Okay, so these type of channels best suited for creating brand awareness, and these have control over messaging, direct selling, and launching new products. Some examples may be like sales call, TV commercials, or company websites, direct email, and promotional material. Some pros and cons could be like such channels offer maximum control over the message, but generally has low credibility compared to the independent sources. Okay. Now expert channel, this is like this provide information provided by the independent knowledgeable third parties to the potential buyer regarding the merits of the product and the services. Such type of channels or the expert channels are best suited for establishing credibility, justifying higher prices, technical products, and overcoming objections. Okay, so the examples may be third party reviews, industry analyst reports, experts blogs, and independent testimonials. Some pros and cons could be like high credibility, but this involves high credibility but less control over the exact content of the message. Okay. Now we'll talk about social channels. So social channel is like word of mouth publicity, personal recommendation, or interaction through the social network, social media network. These channels are best suited for building trust, long-term brand loyalty, and leveraging social proof. Okay, examples may include social media channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, and even the Twitter. These are the very popular social channels. Okay, online communities also, some instant messaging apps also. So pros and cons could be like these are high persuasive but difficult to manage or control, and potential for negative publicity. Now this is a summary table for choosing the channel. Now there are different parameters like features, definition, source, credibility, control, goal, usage. And we are comparing advocate channels, expert channel, and social channel. So advocate channel is like communications. It is like communications coming directly from the company sales for their representatives. And expert channel is like information provided by independent, knowledgeable third party to potential buyers regarding the merit or the plus point or the benefits of the product or services. And social channel is like word of mouth publicity, word of mouth, personal recommendation, or interaction through social network. And if you talk about the sources, so advocate channel is like through company sources, company salesperson. Okay, expert channel, third party professional, and social channel, friends, peers, or community. Credibility is lower in case of advocate channel, high in case of expert channel, and high in case of social channel also. The control is high in case of advocate channels, and control is low in case of social, and medium in expert. Goals are like creating awareness or taking action. When we want the audience to take action or we want to create the awareness, then advocate channels are recommended. And when we want to build up a trust or validate our communication, then expert channel could be very useful. If we talk about social channel, when we are interested to create engagement with the audience or develop a credibility with the audience, then such social channels could be very useful. Usage is direct selling in case of advocate channel. Complex buying decisions are involved, so expert channels are used. And when we focus on the brand loyalty, building brand loyalty, then social channels are very useful. Now, some key examples of non-personal channels. Now, previously we were talking about the personal communication, personal channels. Now we are talking about personal channels. So this largely includes mass media advertising, mass media communication, which may include television commercials, radio spots, newspaper advertisements, also even magazine ads also. This also involves outdoor and print media advertising, which includes bill advertising through billboard, poster, and transit advertising or vehicular advertisement. Digital and web advertising, public relation and events, and even direct marketing or the mass marketing could be considered as an example for non-personal channel. So this is a summary of the different types of personal and non-personal channels that we we covered. So that in case of personal channel, this includes advocate channels, expert channels, social channel. Whereas in case of non-personal, this includes events, atmosphere, media. Media may include print, broadcast, network, electronic, or display, which includes outdoor advertising also. Now, third step is or when we talk about the principles of integrated marketing communication, then third step is the third component of the principle include designing message. So how the message is designed, that depends upon the content, what type of appeal is used in the message, racial appeal, emotional appeal, moral appeal. So this is about the message content and the structure of the message. Like the structure involves one side versus two side argument, conclusion drawing, or the order of presentation. So these are the content or the ingredient of the message designing. So while creating a message, we need to think over these two components, like the content of the message as well as the structure of the message. So message source is also important. What is the credibility? The credibility of the source and who is endorsing the messages. This time these days, many companies or many products uses celebrity advertising to increase the credibility as a source of as an example of brand endorsement. Message format. So the message format has to be considered depending upon the which media is going to be used. So layout, props, models, music, voice, jingles, etc. So these components form the part of message format. So message format and message source are also important. Now, next step is establishing marketing communication budget. Now, budgeting is very critical because in case of marketing communication, we have to spend money to create awareness. We have different objectives. We want to create the demand for the product. So the advertisement has to be done, and a lot of fund is required for that. So there are different types of budgeting method. So these type of budgeting methods, for example, affordable method, percentage to sales method, competitive parity method, objective task method, return on investment method, judgment method, and one more is fixed sum per unit method. So these are the different methods. Here we are talking about 7 types of communication method or so-called advertising methods. Now on the screen you can see there is a comparison of communication budget versus advertising budget. Both look similar in nature but they are different. Communication budget and advertising budget both are different. Now how they are different? Now communication budget is like total funds allocated for all marketing communication activity, whereas advertising budget is about funds allocated specifically for advertising activity only. So advertising is a part of communication. Advertising is very specific in nature. It is narrow or specific, whereas communication budget is broad and integrated. Other criteria like approach, objective, time horizon, measurement metrics, strategic importance, flexibility are also discussed in this comparison chart. In case of communication budget, the flexibility is very high, whereas in case of advertising, it is lower. Now, when we talk about establishing marketing communication budget, we discussed in the previous slide also, there are around 7 methods. Okay, affordable method, percentage of sales method, competitive parity method, objective and task method, fixed sum or unit method, judgment method, or return on investment method. Now, affordable method, we'll talk about this method. The firm sets the communication budgets based on what it can afford after covering all the expenses. So we are talking about different types of communication budgeting methods. So first is affordable method. So in this method, a firm sets the communication budget based on what it can afford after covering all the expenses. There are some limitations also because this ignores communication objective and this can lead to under investment in marketing. For example, a startup spend whatever remains after paying salaries and operational costs. So in such scenario, the budget may be limited. There are some exam advantages also like simple and easy to use and it has low financial risk. Now, second is percentage of sales method. So in this method, the budget is set as a fixed percentage of past or expected sales. So on the basis of the sales, the budget is fixed. Let's talk about an example. For example, a company allocates 5%, 10%, or XYZ percentage of the annual sales to marketing communication budget. There are some limitations like this assumes sales cost promotion and difficult during low sales period. Advantages may be like simple and widely used, helps control cost, but there are important features also, some like why this is so helpful or this is so useful or popular, because this budget varies with the sales volume, maintains a stable spending to sales ratio. So this is percentage of sales method. Now, third is competitive parity method. In this method, the firm sets its budget to match competitor spending level. So, on the basis of the competition, the budget is planned. For example, a brand matches an average advertising spend of leading competitors in the market. There are some limitations also. This assumes competitors know best. This assumes competitors know best, ignores firm specific goal and strategy, and some advantage like reduces risk of under or overspending, useful in highly competitive market. So this focuses on industry benchmark and helps avoid competitive disadvantages. Fourth method is objective and task method. So this is in this method, the firm defines communication objectives, identifies task required to achieve them, and estimates the cost of each task. For example, objective may be increase brand awareness by XYZ percentage, or task may be like TV ad, social media campaign, influencer marketing. Budget is like total cost of all the tasks combined. So objective and task method. In this method, the firm defines communication objective, identifies the task required to achieve them, and estimate the cost of each task. So on the basis of each task, the budget is allocated. So there are some advantages also, like it is most logical and effective method because on the basis of every task the budget is allocated, and this encourages accountability and ROI analysis. But there are some limitations also because this is time consuming. This requires accurate planning and research. Fifth method is fixed sum or unit method. Under this method, a fixed amount is allocated per unit sold or produced, or a predetermined lump sum is set for communication activities. For example, a company send XYZ amount per unit sold on marketing communication. Now, advantages maybe it is easier to calculate or administer, scales with business volume, and limitations are like this ignores market conditions and objectives, and this is not suitable for new products. The key features includes the budget linked to production of sales units. So budget is linked directly with the production of the number of units sold or planning we are planning to sell. So common in consumer goods and FMCG sector. So this method is very popular or popularly commonly used in case of consumer goods or FMCG sectors. Now we'll talk about sixth method, which is judgment method. So the marketing budget is decided based on the experience, in, intuition, and managerial judgment of the top executives or the manager. For example, a senior executive or a manager may decide the advertising budgets based upon his or her own market knowledge or the intuition. Okay, there are some advantages and disadvantages. Advantages may be useful when data is limited or data we don't have any data available with us and we want to make fast decision. And but limitations may be like it is highly subjective in nature and risk of bias and consistency may exist. So this relies on the past experiences and there is no formal calculation is done. So this is purely based upon the judgment. So that is why it is known as judgmental method. Now, seventh method or the last method is known as return on investment method. So this includes performance-driven approach and focus on profitability. So this links spending to measurable results. Okay, encourages efficient use of resources. Limitation may be like difficult to accurately measure communication ROI. Long-term brand effects may be ignored. So the communication budget is determined by estimating the expected return from the marketing activity and allocating funds accordingly. So while discussing about the principles of integrated marketing communications, we talked about different steps, and in those steps we talked about establishing marketing communication budgets, and we discussed about seven types of communication budgets or advertising budgets. Although advertising budgets are specific in nature, but we had discussed about the communication budget. So we talked about seven types. One is affordable method. Second is percentage of sales method. Third one is competitive parity. Fourth is objective and task oriented method. Fifth is fixed sum or unit method. Sixth method was judgment method. Seventh is ROI. So on your screen you can see a matrix format, and you can see in the matrix format you can see like comparative analysis of these seven methods is mentioned on the basis of strategic focus and reliability. So to sum up quickly, affordable method is about the availability of the funds. Percentage of sales method is about the sales revenue. Competitive parity is about the competitor spend, how much money competitor is spending. Objective and task oriented method depends upon the communication goals. Fixed unit or some fixed sum method depends upon the units sold or produced. Judgment method depends upon the managerial intuition, and ROI or return on investment method depends upon the expected returns. So designing the marketing communication mix depends upon different elements or the components also. Now this is the final step of the principles of integrated marketing communication. So when we talk about designing the marketing communication mix, we need to have a proper blend of the different components or the tools of integrated marketing communication or communication mix. The blend of the composition of this mix may include personal selling, advertising, sales, promotion, publicity, and public relations. So personal selling is direct presentation of the product to a prospective customer by a representative of the selling organization. Advertising is a paid, impersonal mass communication with a clearly identified sponsor. Sales promotion is a demand stimulating activity designed to supplement advertising and facilitate personal selling. Public relations, a planned communication effort by an organization to contribute to generally favorable attitude and opinion towards the organization and its product or services. Publicity, a special form of public relation that involves news stories about an organization or its product. Although we talked about some several other elements also, other elements or the tools of integrated marketing communication mix, but these are the important tools. So we need to be very careful while designing the marketing communication mix. We need to carefully design or collect or collaborate among these different tools or the elements of or so-called components of integrated marketing communication mix. So last step is the monitoring and evaluation or so-called the measures of the communication results. So we need to, after the communication campaign is planned and designed, we need to uh, think about how we'll monitor and how we'll evaluate the results. So the target audience is usually asked whether they recognize or recall the message. In integrated marketing communication, ultimately most important thing is the communication of the message. So as a marketer, we must be able to get this information from the audience. We must be able to evaluate that the target audience is able to recognize or recall the marketing campaign message or not. On the basis of this criteria, we can decide, we can evaluate the effectiveness of integrated marketing communication results or the campaign. So we talked about the principles of effective marketing communications, and we discussed about these different components in detail, which comprises of who, where, what, how much, from, like channel or the period of time, or what was it. And this in this process we talked about different steps. These comprises of identifying the target audience, choice of communication channel, message. We talked about the budgets in detail, communication program design, monitoring and evaluation was. So in this presentation and lecture, we talked about different components of integrated marketing communication, which comprises of communication theory, and we had related integrated marketing theory with the communication theory. We talked about various strategies or the factors affecting strategy or in integrated marketing communication, that comprises of segmentation, targeting, positioning also. We had discussed about the
principles of marketing communication efficiency in a detail. I hope this lecture, this tutorial video was useful for you and will come up with more videos. Thank you.